to Content Cube. Welcome back to Mike. What are we called?
Above the Break. Don't forget it.
Above the Break. Do not forget it. Content Cube's latest and greatest basketball show. Today, this segment here that we're going to be talking about is all about the home city boys, the Raps, who had probably the worst game that anybody's ever played in the entire history of basketball. Mike, can you break down this awful Game 5 after leveling the series, being down 2-0, bringing back to 2-2? You'd think, okay, now we got this fire going. Maybe some remembering Milwaukee of last year, and they had, I think, the worst game I've ever seen anybody play ever. Can you break this down for us, please?
A historically terrible game. Their starters combined for 93 points. Our starters combined for a paltry 55. You're not going to win many games like that. Let's be first and foremost here. We went minus 27 by the halftime. When you go minus 27, that's not just simply you got outplayed and they played good defense. That's where you're in the minus 10, maybe even minus 12, minus 15 range. When you're minus 27, that's lack of effort and that's a lack of energy. Like, you need to have energy on the glass offensively and defensively. You need to get rebounds. That's win or lose the game like that. There are a lot of stats that I could point to that say that this game was actually closer than people think statistically. A lot of the major stats were very close between these teams. You might think, oh, we got out rebounded. Not so much. Oh, you might think, oh, they're fast break points. We turned the ball over. So actually, we only had 2 more turnovers. But we just didn't convert on some of those turnovers and turn them into points. These are the types of things you have to look at when you're seeing Toronto not show up. Literally, game 1 was the same way. The energy was paltry. This was a terrible game where we would have lost to anybody but the Knicks. Yeah, I'm not taking credit away from Boston for honestly didn't even take their starters out in the fourth when they were up 18. They were like, no, we're taking this home. We're taking this game. We're not screwing around. This is over. Okay, cool. I respect that. But Jason Tatum shot 5 of 15. He was the only guy who really didn't show up offensively. Whereas for Toronto, you have Anunoby going 3 of 11. The first time we've seen him really get some volume, he wasn't really hitting shots. You know, you got Kyle Lowry who had 10 points. I think that's some of his lowest points he's had in a playoff career. Obviously, we've seen him have a donut before in playoffs past, but this is one of those things where we need to show up. We got shook. The first quarter ended, and we had like 9 points, 11 points. That's not going to cut it. You ain't beating nobody getting 11 points in the first quarter. Now, obviously, zooming out, how are both of these teams going to win? That's a whole different topic of discussion, you know, and that's something that we're going to be getting into in a moment here. But like, as for game number 5, as a Toronto fan, that really hurt to watch. And as a basketball fan, that was turn the game off at halftime and maybe even earlier. That's how sad that was.
Yeah, it looked like when Boston got hot, they stayed hot forever. It seemed like they didn't miss a shot. In the inspired 2 games that we won, it seemed like Kyle Lowry was at the helm. And when he plays great, and the Raps are way better because of it. But he's 34, and he can't be playing 48 minutes a night, right? And he's playing pretty much that. Mind you, last night, when you're down 30, I said, okay, sit down, Kyle. Let's maybe try to rest you guys, because they looked like they were just tired, right? For game 6, is it incumbent on Kyle Lowry to make the team perform, or do you think, you know, the guys like Pascal, who everybody's clamoring for, saying, listen, Spicy P, let's go, man, we got to get you going, who has to lead this team to take it back and force a game 7?
So I was checking some advanced statistics before we hopped on here, and basically in wins and losses, I looked at the splits. I'm like, what are the shooting splits specifically for our 3-pointers? In our wins, Fred VanVleet is shooting 45% from 3. He's taking about 9 shots. He's hitting 6 shots. He's hitting 5 shots. It's not really a question of if he's hitting shots or not. He's draining threes when we win. Same goes for Kyle Lowry. And ironically, the same goes for Ibaka. When those 3 are hitting threes, it's irrelevant what Siakam does. Now, for each one of those guys struggling, Siakam needs to step up a little bit more. OG might need to step up a little bit more, score a little bit more of the ball. Now, in terms of us being able to come back and lead, we have to have Kyle Lowry be our best player on the court. Energy. drawing charges, doing all the small little things, diving for loose balls. Heading into the game, I'm pretty sure he still does lead these two statistics. He leads in the most loose balls recovered and the most charges drawn. This guy's able to cause turnovers that give you possession basically without even a shot being put up from the other team. It's as good as a steal. That's energy, that's effort, that's focus. And all those things waned. We looked like we were drained in game 5. We gave away that game. Every close game, we've been right in it to the last shot. We won game 3 in a close game. We won game 4 in a close game. We lost game 2. It was a close game. But we didn't show up for 2 games this series and basically spotted them 2 games. You're not going to win many series like that.
So do you think realistically the Raps can force a game 7? Looking how gassed they were in game 5, okay, maybe they got to rest their starters a little because they were down by 30, but you're right, they're giving up games at this point. And, I don't think anyone expected the Raptors to go and win their second chip here, but, the Toronto-Boston rivalry is real. And I know that Toronto sports fans don't want to lose to Boston in any sport ever. Is it realistic that the Raps force a game 7, or do you think Boston has momentum and they're just going to carry this out?
Yeah, when I look at this, I think we totally can push to a game 7. As long as we play our game, they're going to play their game. They've proven they ain't going to not show up. Like a guy might not show up like Jaylen Brown, or a guy might not show up and score efficiently like Tatum did in a couple of these games, but they won both of those games. So I'm looking at it like it's a sum of your parts. Both of these teams are built the exact same way. It's a sum of your parts. And how are you going to be able to function as a cohesive unit? Marcus Smart won them a game. It doesn't matter who. OG won us a game on a last-second heave that saved us from basically going down 3-0. And that would have been the nail in the coffin, let's be honest. So when the games are close, it's anybody's game between these two teams. If we want to give ourselves a shot, we need to be able to keep the game within arm's reach. When you're going down huge in the first quarter, like we did in game 1 and 5, you got no shot. But in terms of keeping it close, we could win game 6 and game 7. I wouldn't be completely surprised. I just need to see energy. I need to see effort. And I want to see guys that are digging in offensively and grabbing those rebounds. Stop giving them offensive rebounds. That's scary stuff when Gasol or Ibaka aren't securing misses. That's scary. You lose games like that, straight up.
Do you think, and for one, I should say, it's refreshing seeing a series this competitive, right? Like, mind you, okay, games 1 and 5 weren't competitive, but when both teams are at their best, they're really at each other's throats. And it's really exciting to watch. Despite the nerves that it causes me as a Raptors fan. The winner of this series goes up probably against Miami, right?
Yep.
What in that series do you think that whoever's coming out of this one has enough to take out the Heat, given how impressive they've looked?
Either of these teams can beat the Heat. I'm not like the Heat took out Indiana. They were game. They tried to show up, but they got swept, and Indiana put up a fight, but just weren't enough at the end of each game. They just didn't have that closer. They didn't have that end game kind of guy. Boston has that guy in Tatum. We don't have to question about that. Kemba Walker is that guy for them. We don't have to question about that. When I do go and look at someone like the Heat, I think they match up better against Toronto than they do against Boston. I'll be honest. Boston's also due to have Gordon Hayward come back next round at some point. So that's another cavalry piece that will come in there and really kind of shake things up and give Miami some fits probably, especially if they wanted to go with Marcus Smart going back to the bench. That's a nice energy piece you can have coming off the bench like he typically did all year. And yeah, so I think Boston is equipped more to push them, but Toronto can totally beat Miami. I'm not going to sit there and say no, but this is a momentum-driven league, especially in a bubble where you're not going to a home crowd. You're not traveling like that anymore. So you really have to take into consideration these types of things. And if I'm going to be honest with you as a Toronto fan, even if we make it past Boston, the way that we've been looking, unless we change those things in game 6 and hopefully a game 7 and we win, we got to carry that momentum into Miami because they're riding high. They've only have one loss, and it was in overtime, and it was barely scraped out from underneath them. So something to think about.
By 3 points too, nonetheless. That's a nail biter.
One possession game.
One possession. Anyway, that's gonna do it for the Eastern Conference. Let us know what you thought of the second official, I guess, segment of our new show. What's it called, Mike?
Above the break. We hit them from deep.
Boom. Don't forget it. Next, we're going to be hitting you with the Western Conference. We're going out west. We're going to break that down. Be sure to check it out.